My female, 26, mom is spreading rumors about my relationship, and I'm at my breaking point. So, this is my first time posting here, but I'm really struggling and need some outside perspective. I've been with my boyfriend Mark, male, 28, for just over 2 years now. We met at a community fundraiser for the animal shelter. He works as an engineer, and I'm finishing up my master's in education. He's seriously the most supportive person I've ever dated. He actually listens when I talk about my thesis stuff, even though it must be super boring for him. He collects vinyl records, and he's been teaching me about all these obscure bands. We've been talking about getting engaged soon, and everything was going great until my mom decided to completely ruin everything. So about my mom, Diane, female, 52, she's the family counselor at our church and has been for like 15 years, which is honestly the most ironic thing ever, considering how she treats her own family. She's basically got this perfect Christian mother persona at church, but at home she's, well, not that. My dad, Richard, male, 54, is way more chill. He works in insurance and pretty much lets mom run the show. He's always been the parent I could actually talk to without feeling judged about everything. Mom has always been super controlling about my life. When I decided on education as my major, she went on this whole rant about how I was wasting my potential and how I could have been a doctor. I literally faint at the sight of blood, but whatever, Mom. She's always trying to micromanage my life choices, from my hair to my friends to my career. And she's never liked Mark. I mean, she acts all nice to his face, but she's constantly making these little comments when he's not around, like how his parents are divorced, as if that's somehow his fault, and how engineering isn't as prestigious as being a doctor or lawyer. She once literally said, "I just want what's best for you, honey," in this super condescending tone, while basically implying Mark wasn't good enough. I was furious. Anyway, a few weeks ago, we went to my parents' house for my dad's birthday dinner. I'd been super stressed about this big project for my master's program and had been having these recurring stress dreams about it. After dinner, where I admittedly had a few glasses of wine, we were all watching some movie and I fell asleep on the couch. Apparently, while I was sleeping, I mumbled something like, "I can't do this with Mark anymore," which sounds bad out of context. But in my dream, I was actually talking about this half joke we had about renovating this old bookshelf together, which was a disaster the first time we tried, haha. But my mom decided this was her chance to sabotage my relationship. I noticed Mom giving me this weird look when I woke up, but I didn't think anything of it until a few days later when my Aunt Sarah called me asking if everything was okay between me and Mark. I was super confused and was like, "Yeah, why?" And she goes, "Oh, Diane mentioned you were having serious doubts and were thinking of ending things." I was like, "What?" So I started asking around and found out my mom had been telling everyone, family members, church people, even freaking Pastor Collins, that I had confessed my true feelings in my sleep and that I was secretly miserable with Mark, but was too afraid to admit it. She even called Mark's parents to express her concerns about our relationship. Who does that? Things got worse when Mark texted me asking if we needed to talk about something serious. I called him immediately. When we talked, he told me his mom called him saying, "My mom told her I confessed to not wanting to be with him anymore." I was completely blindsided and explained the whole sleep-talking thing and what I was actually dreaming about. Mark believed me, but he admitted it made him doubt things for a minute, and I could tell he was still unsettled even though he was trying to play it cool. I promised him I'd confront my mom and fix this whole mess. I was so angry. I was literally shaking when I hung up the phone. I called my mom right away, and she had the audacity to brush it off like it was nothing. She was all, "I'm just looking out for you, and the subconscious doesn't lie, honey," and other BS. She wouldn't even admit that spreading rumors was wrong. Instead, she acted like she was doing me some kind of favor. This isn't the first time she's pulled something like this, by the way. In high school, she accidentally mentioned to my boyfriend at the time that I was considering colleges in another state, which I had only briefly looked at, and he broke up with me because of it. She was all, "Oops, I didn't realize it was a secret." Yeah, right. The rumors have been causing actual problems with me and Mark now. His parents invited us to dinner last week and spent the whole time asking these pointed questions about my commitment issues and whether I was truly invested in a future with their son. It was humiliating. Mark defended me, but I could tell he was uncomfortable. And then yesterday, I found out Pastor Collins actually approached Mark after Sunday service to offer counseling for our relationship issues. Mark was confused and embarrassed, and I can't believe my mom would go this far. But here's where things get complicated. At our family reunion 3 months ago, my mom had way too much wine and pulled me aside for this heart-to-heart, and she told me something huge. I'm actually the product of a brief affair she had 26 years ago. My dad, Richard, isn't my biological father. I was so shocked that I instinctively started recording part of the conversation on my phone because I wasn't sure I'd even believe it happened the next day. I haven't told anyone about this, not even Mark. I've just been processing it privately because it's a lot to take in, you know? And now I'm in this impossible situation. I need my mom to stop spreading these damaging rumors about me and Mark, and I'm thinking about using the recording as leverage. But I don't want to hurt my dad. He doesn't deserve to find out like this that I'm not his biological daughter. But I'm desperate and don't know what else to do. I love Mark, and I'm not going to let my mom ruin the best relationship I've ever had because of her weird control issues. But I also don't want to blow up my entire family in the process. Am I terrible for even considering using this recording? Is there another way to make her stop? I feel like I'm stuck between ruining my relationship or ruining my family, and I'm honestly losing sleep over this. Edit. To clarify about the recording, I wasn't planning to record my mom that night or anything sneaky. She was saying all this crazy stuff about an affair, and I literally just hit record on my phone because I was in shock and thought I might be misunderstanding what she was saying. I've never told anyone about it until now. Edit. 2. A lot of people are asking why Mark's parents would believe my mom over me. His mom has always been kind of protective of him since the divorce was really hard on him, and I think she was already nervous about us talking engagement. Also, my mom's whole church counselor reputation makes people think she's this wise, trustworthy person. Thanks for all the supportive comments. To those asking if I've tried just firmly telling my mom to stop, yes, multiple times. She either denies spreading rumors, says she's just concerned, or tells me I'm overreacting. It's like talking to a brick wall that constantly twists everything I say. Now for the first update, a lot has happened since my last post. A lot. I'm actually sitting here with shaky hands trying to type this all out because honestly, I still can't believe what went down. I went to my parents' house yesterday when I knew my dad would be at work because I really didn't want him involved in this mess yet. Spoiler alert, that didn't work out so great. My mom was wearing her church counselor outfit. I swear she has this whole separate wardrobe for church stuff versus what she actually wears at home. Pretty sure she knew I was coming over to talk about something serious. I tried to start the conversation super calmly. I really did. I sat down at the kitchen table and explained how her spreading these rumors was actively damaging my relationship. I told her how Mark's parents were treating me differently and how embarrassing it was to have Pastor Collins offering relationship counseling. She gave me this super patronizing look and said she was just concerned and that any good mother would do the same. Then she had the nerve to mention that Pastor Collins' son just finished medical school with this little smile. For context, she tried to set me up with him 3 times before I met Mark, and he's literally the most boring person I've ever met. I told my mom I needed her to stop telling people I'm unhappy with Mark because it's not true, and it's hurting us. She said she was just sharing her concerns as my mother and that she saw how unhappy I looked when I was asleep. When I explained, you can't base anything on sleep talking, and I was dreaming about something completely different, she said that sometimes our subconscious reveals what we're afraid to admit to ourselves. I could feel myself getting more and more frustrated because she was using that calm counselor voice that makes it seem like I'm the irrational one for getting upset. You know that voice. I told her I had an interesting recording from the family reunion a few months ago. When she looked confused, I pulled out my phone and played just the first few seconds where you can clearly hear her voice saying, "I've never told anyone this, but Richard isn't actually." She immediately tried to grab my phone. I pulled back just in time, stopped the recording, and held my phone against my chest. She told me to delete it right away. I said I'd delete it if she agreed to take back all the rumors she'd been spreading and tell everyone she misunderstood. She was panicking. I've never seen my mom lose her cool like that. She's always so composed and in control. But in that moment, she looked genuinely scared, which made me feel both powerful and kind of awful at the same time. Is that terrible of me? I don't know. She eventually agreed to my terms. She promised she would tell everyone she had misunderstood what I said in my sleep and that Mark and I were doing great. She even said she'd personally talk to his parents to clear things up. I left feeling guilty about essentially blackmailing my own mother, but also relieved that this nightmare might finally be over. She looked so frightened that I actually felt a little bad for her. Like, she's still my mom, and I've never seen her look so vulnerable before. God, I was so fucking naive. About a week later, I started getting these weird texts from relatives asking if I was doing okay and if I needed someone to talk to. My cousin Jen finally told me what was going on. My mom had been telling everyone that I was becoming mentally unstable and that when she tried to express concern about my relationship, I had threatened her with manipulated recordings. Are you kidding me? She didn't stop the rumors at all. She just changed them to make me look crazy instead. Now suddenly, I'm the unstable one who's making threats and fabricating evidence. I couldn't believe she would take it this far, but I guess I shouldn't be surprised given her history. I was so upset, I ended up stress cleaning my entire apartment at 2 a.m. I scrubbed the grout in my shower with a toothbrush for like an hour straight. My hands were raw the next day, but at least my bathroom was spotless, I guess. Mark's parents went from concerned to seriously alarmed. His mom called him, suggesting that maybe I needed professional help before they could support our engagement. She told him they just want to make sure he's not rushing into something with someone who might be unstable. To his credit, Mark has been amazing through all of this. He believes me completely and has been super supportive, but I can tell he's getting really frustrated with the situation too. It's putting a strain on his relationship with his parents, which makes me feel terrible because he's really close with them, and I hate being the reason for any tension there. And then, my dad called. My dad. The one person I thought would always be on my side. He was all awkward and uncomfortable, asking if I was feeling okay lately and if I wanted him to recommend his therapist friend. I was speechless. My own father thought I was having some kind of breakdown. Things finally got worse at our annual extended family dinner last night. It's this big tradition at my parents' house where all the aunts, uncles, and cousins get together. I seriously considered skipping it, but Mark convinced me we should go together and present a united front. The moment we walked in, I could feel everyone's eyes on us. People were giving me these concerned glances when they thought I wasn't looking. My mom was playing the role of the gracious but worried host, sighing dramatically whenever anyone asked her how she was doing. During dinner, my mom deliberately brought up what she now called my sleep confession again, supposedly to clear the air, but in a way that still implied I was unhappy with Mark. My mom started talking about how they were worried about my state of mind lately. When my Aunt Sarah asked what was going on, my mom said that I had confessed in my sleep that I couldn't continue with Mark anymore, and that I became defensive when she tried to talk to me about it. When I tried to interrupt, she talked over me, saying I'd made accusations and threats. Mark calmly said that there was a misunderstanding and that we were actually doing really well and talking about getting engaged. My mom gave him a pitying look and said she was sure he believed that, but sometimes people don't see things clearly when they're under someone's influence. I could feel my hands literally shaking under the table. I was so angry I could barely breathe. My cousin Alex asked if I had really threatened my mom with some kind of recording. That's when I realized just how far my mom had gone with these new rumors. Everyone at that table, my family, thought I was having some kind of mental break, and in that moment, I made the decision I'd been trying so hard to avoid. My dad had recently installed this Bluetooth speaker system throughout the first floor. Without saying anything, I quietly connected my phone to it. I stood up, looked directly at my dad, and said, "I'm so sorry you have to find out this way. I really am." Before anyone could ask what I meant, I hit play on the recording from the family reunion. My mom's voice filled the room, slightly slurred from the wine she'd had that night, saying that Richard isn't actually my biological father. She confessed to having a brief affair with Thomas from the church choir 26 years ago, before he moved to Colorado. She explained she never told Richard because she was afraid he'd leave her, and that I sometimes look so much like Thomas it scares her. The entire room went completely silent. My dad's face looked crushed, 26 years of what he thought was his life just fell apart right in front of him. He didn't say a single word. He just got up, walked out of the dining room, grabbed his keys, and left the house. My mom was screaming after him, begging him to let her explain, but he didn't even look back. Aunt Sarah was the first to speak after Dad left. She looked at me, then at my mom, and said quietly, "I always wondered. The timing never made sense, and she has his eyes." Apparently, she had suspected for years, based on when Mom was supposedly at a church retreat around the time I was conceived, and the fact that I never really looked like my dad. One by one, people started making excuses to leave. Some looked shocked, others seemed almost unsurprised, like this confirmed suspicions they'd had about my mother's character all along. My mom just collapsed into her chair. All those years of lies and manipulation, her carefully constructed reputation, it was all crumbling around her in real time. Mark gently took my hand and led me out of there. I was in shock, I think. I still am. I don't know what happens next. My dad hasn't come home as far as I know. He texted me once just saying he needs some time to think, but doesn't blame me. I don't know if their marriage will survive this, or if I even want it to at this point. What I do know is that I couldn't keep living with her lies and manipulation anymore. I'm devastated that my dad had to find out this way, but I couldn't see any other way out. Edit. A lot of people are asking if I feel bad about exposing my mom like that. Yes and no. I feel terrible that my dad had to find out this way and that it happened in front of the whole family. But after weeks of her spreading lies about me and trying to sabotage my relationship, then doubling down by telling everyone I was mentally unstable, I just snapped. Was it the most mature way to handle it? Probably not. But I was out of options. Edit 2. To clarify about my dad, he's been texting me a little. Just short messages, letting me know he's okay and staying at a hotel. He said he doesn't blame me for any of this, but he needs space to process. I'm really worried about him. Now for the second update. Hey everyone, it's been about a month since my last post. A lot has happened since I played that recording at the family dinner. My whole life basically fell apart. But I guess that's what happens when a 26-year lie gets exposed at a freaking family dinner. So my dad checked into a hotel right after he walked out of dinner that night. He wasn't answering any of my mom's calls, but he did text me a couple times just saying he needed space to think, but that he didn't blame me for any of this. I was so worried about him. Like, imagine finding out your daughter isn't biologically yours after 26 years of believing she is, and finding out in front of your entire extended family. I had to take some time off from my teaching assistant position because I was a complete mess. I've barely slept. So I'm living on coffee and those protein bars that taste like cardboard. I was looking for this old photo album the other day, and I found my childhood teddy bear. My dad sewed his arm back on like 5 different times when I was a kid, rather than just getting me a new one. The family reactions have been mixed. Most people have reached out to say they support me and Dad, which is nice, I guess. A few relatives, mostly the older ones, think I should have found a more private way to handle it. Like how exactly? My mom had already turned everyone against me. Several people have mentioned that they always suspected my mom was manipulative, but never realized just how far she'd go. My Aunt Sarah has been especially great through all this. She actually called me the day after everything went down and admitted she'd suspected the truth since I was born. Apparently, my mom was on this church retreat around the time I was conceived, which apparently was actually code for affair with Thomas from the choir. Oh, and Sarah told me my mom blocked me on all social media, real mature, mom, and has been telling her church friends some completely different version of events. Basically, she's saying I've been brainwashed by Mark and I'm having some kind of mental breakdown. The church leadership called a meeting with her about her position as the family counselor. One of Mom's friends from church reached out to me and told me Pastor Collins was disappointed by what happened. I've been so worried about my dad, though. Like, regardless of DNA, he's been my dad my entire life. He taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my math homework and came to every single one of my school events. I don't care about biology. He's my real dad, period. But I know it's different for him. This changes everything about how he sees the last 26 years. I don't regret exposing my mom's lies. I had to do it. She left me no choice. But I feel so terrible about hurting my dad in the process. I never wanted him to find out like that. I never wanted him to find out at all, to be honest. But then my mom should have thought about that before spreading rumors about my mental state to everyone we know, right? Mark has been amazing through all of this. Seriously, beyond supportive. We had this really intense conversation last week where he pointed out that I tend to keep difficult emotions to myself, like how I kept the whole affair baby secret for months without telling anyone. At first, I got defensive because I was exhausted and emotional, and basically anything feels like criticism right now. But then I realized he was just trying to help. So after about a week of silence, my dad finally texted and asked if we could meet for coffee. I was so nervous that morning. I got to the coffee shop early and just sat there watching the door. When he walked in, he looked really tired, like he hadn't slept much, and he had several days of stubble, which is not normal for him. He's always been super clean cut. The first thing he did was give me a long, tight hug before sitting down. I immediately started apologizing for how he found out. My dad told me he needed to know the truth, even though it was painful. When I asked if he hated me now that he knew I wasn't his biological daughter, he got emotional and told me I had been his daughter for 26 years, and DNA doesn't change that. I just lost it. I was sitting there crying in this coffee shop while people were trying to enjoy their drinks around us. But I didn't even care. My dad told me he was meeting with a divorce lawyer. He said he wasn't even that surprised by Mom's lies. Apparently, there have been other times throughout their marriage where she's lied or manipulated situations, just not anything this massive. I apologized again for how public the whole revelation was, and he said it was humiliating, but added that sometimes a clean break is better. That conversation with my dad gave me some strength to deal with all the other fallout. A bunch of extended family members have been reaching out privately to express support, and many of them have shared their own stories of my mom's manipulation over the years. Like, my cousin told me Mom once tried to break up his engagement by telling his fiancé he had gambling debts. He doesn't. What the frick, Mom? About 3 weeks after the big revelation, Aunt Sarah told me that my mom has been removed from her church family counseling position and asked to step back from other leadership roles. Apparently, when the church leadership confronted her, she tried to portray herself as the victim of my vendetta against her, but too many inconsistencies in her story had come up by then. And then my mom had the audacity to text me saying, "I hope you're happy with what you've done to this family." Not even an apology. Still trying to make me the bad guy in all of this. I can't with her anymore. From what I've heard, she's getting increasingly isolated. Most family members and church friends are distancing themselves, not because of the affair itself necessarily, it was 26 years ago, but because of the years of lies, and then her recent campaign against her own daughter, me. Last week, she showed up at my apartment unannounced. She looked kind of disheveled, which is super weird for her because she's always so perfectly put together. I reluctantly let her in, probably shouldn't have, but I was caught off guard. She immediately started saying, "After everything I've done for you." I interrupted her because I'm so done with the guilt trips. I told her I wasn't going to let her make me feel bad for exposing the truth. She switched tactics and started claiming she was just protecting me from a bad relationship with Mark. I pointed out that this was just another example of her trying to control my life, just like she's always done. She started crying, saying she's lost everything: her church position, her friends, dad. For a split second, I felt bad for her, until she added that it was all my fault. I told her that her own choices and lies led to these consequences. She got angry and said I had been plotting against her all along. At that point, I just showed her to the door and said I hope she gets help. She asked if I would ever forgive her, and I honestly told her I don't know. It's been about 3 months since the initial blow-up now. My dad and mom are officially separated and the divorce proceedings are underway. Dad's moved into a small apartment near his office and seems to be doing okay, all things considered. He's even joined this hiking group and reconnected with some old college friends. Mark and I got engaged last month. We're planning a small wedding. Obviously, my mom won't be involved. And before anyone asks, yes, Dad will definitely be walking me down the aisle. We also adopted this super cute rescue dog together. She's a pit bull mix and basically the sweetest thing ever. It feels like a big step in building our own little family. I'm still struggling with a lot of guilt and weird emotions about everything. I started seeing a therapist to work through it all. It's helping, I think. It's weird because I'm still so angry at my mom, but also sad that our relationship is basically destroyed. But then I remember all the manipulation and I get angry again. It's exhausting. My mom is still maintaining that she did nothing wrong. She's telling anyone who will still listen, not many people at this point, that she was just trying to protect me from a bad relationship. The family is pretty fractured now. Most relatives are firmly on Dad's and my side, though a few older relatives still talk to Mom out of some sense of obligation, I guess. Pastor Collins actually reached out to apologize for not seeing through my mom's manipulations sooner. He admitted the church had enabled her behavior by putting her on this pedestal for years, which was pretty big of him to acknowledge. The weirdest development. I got a letter last week from a man named Thomas, as in Thomas from the church choir 26 years ago, my potential biological father. Apparently, Aunt Sarah tracked him down and told him he had a right to know. I haven't decided if I'm going to respond yet. Part of me is curious, but another part of me feels like I already have a dad, you know? This whole experience has changed me. I'm definitely more assertive now. I refuse to keep the peace at my own expense anymore. The situation with my mom is still painful and unresolved, but there's this weird sense of peace that comes with not carrying the burden of her secrets anymore. I never wanted to cause all this destruction, but I don't regret standing up for myself and my relationship. I'm still processing everything, but I'm trying to focus on building my future with Mark rather than dwelling on all the family drama.